With the reducer finished, for now at least, regarding ingredients, let's connect the Burger Builder container to our store. We already set up the store here in the index.js file, passed to provider and wrapped everything with provider. So now it's time to work on the Burger Builder to receive that data there. And you learned how that works. It works with the connect function we import from React Redux. So let's import connect from there, from React Redux like this. And with that import added, let's wrap our export with it. Now, to be precise, let's not wrap it with it. Let's simply wrap the map dispatch to props and map state to props constants with it and pass the Burger Builder to it. But here we face an issue. We already have a higher order component wrapping our export, the with error handler higher order component we set up here. Well, this actually isn't a problem. You can have as many higher order components in there as you want. In the end, what connect will do is it will just set some props on the component it's wrapping. So as long as you pass this props on in your own higher order components, this should work fine, because any props set by other higher order components, which might wrap this one, will still be passed on just fine. So this shouldn't pose an issue at all. So let's see if this works. Let's go back to the Burger Builder and let's create our two constants which define which props we get in the Burger Builder. Map dispatch to props and map state to props. I'll reverse the order because I did so before. So const map state to props. Now map state to props holds a function which receives the state automatically and which returns a JavaScript object where we define which property should hold which slice of the state. So here we could create INGs for ingredients and assign state ingredients just like that to get access to that ingredients property in our state. And dispatch to props now receives a function or holds a function which receives the dispatch function as an argument and then also returns our object with props function mappings in this case. And here I want to have two dispatchable props basically, or two props which can be triggered. I'll have a on ingredient added property, and this property name as this one here of course is totally up to you. So here on ingredient added will hold an anonymous function where I then execute dispatch and pass a JavaScript object where the type should now be my add ingredient action type. And for that, I'll move all the way up to the file and import everything as action types from this action types folder, which we can find 2 levels up in the store folder in the actions.js file. This is where the action types are stored. So now this is what I'll assign here. Type is action types add ingredient. And now if we have a look at the reducer, and probably you also remember, add ingredient, just like remove ingredient, requires a payload. We use the ingredient name there and we access it on the action. So we need to pass the ingredient name along with the type. So back in the Burger Builder, here the type is one thing, but I'll also set up my ingredient name action property. And the ingredient name now is something I expect to get here in this function. So I'll simply name it ing name here. You can name this argument whatever you want, of course. And then I'll assign it here as a value. I'll then duplicate this property and add my on ingredient removed property, where I also need the ingredient name. But then here I dispatch the remove ingredient action, but still pass my ingredient name on. Now with these two constants, map state to props and map dispatch to props set up, we can connect our component to Redux. So let's add connect, we already imported it, and let's pass map state to props and map dispatch to props as arguments. And then let's pass this entire with error handler call here as an argument to the function this connect function call returns us. With this set up now, We have our Burger Builder container connected to the store. Let's now use all these props we make available in the Burger Builder, like INGs. Everywhere where we used ingredients, we now want to use INGs. And I will remove ingredients from here to make it really clear that we're not using the local state for ingredients anymore. For the price we will, right now at least. So let's fix this, or let's set this up. Add ingredient and remove ingredient handler. We should be able to entirely remove that, but I will leave it here since we'll later pick the total price updating code from there. But we don't want to execute them anymore. Instead, if we scroll down to the render method, wherever we access this state ingredients, we want to use this props INGs instead. This property we set up in map state to props here. So this is what we want to use in our render method. This props INGs instead of state ingredients. State error and so on will stay untouched for now. But here, for example, state ingredients, this is this props INGs. And then here our burger will be past the ingredients. Guess what? It's this props INGs. And so on. Now, I will first of all replace all ingredients before I work on the ingredient added and removed props here. So let me go on. Here also, this is this props INGs. And that should be it. Now let's work on the add ingredient and remove ingredient handlers. We don't call that anymore. Instead, we execute this props on ingredient added and this props on ingredient removed. But both functions in the end need an argument. If we scroll down to our map dispatch to props constant, we see that the functions stored in these props or passed on to these props both take the ingredient name as an argument. To pass this on here, let's first of all have a look at our build controls component. If we scroll to our components and we open the build controls folder and go into the build controls component, we see that we already pass control type here as an argument to the ingredient added and removed props method, so to the method which gets passed through these props, and that happens to be the method we just set up here. Now that just means we have to check if control type is exactly what we're looking for, and it is, because control type is this part here, type salad, bacon, cheese and meat, and that has the same format as the names we use as properties in our reducer code. And of course we should make sure that this is equal. You could of course go so far and refactor your application to take the ingredient state, the property names here, to create your controls in the Burger Builder, in the build controls component here. But we'll leave it as it is, and we're just making sure that we're passing the correct value to our action dispatchers, and we do. So save all the files then, and now let's try this out. Back in our running application, let's add some ingredients to that burger, like salad, bacon, cheese, or meat. And this is all working fine. Now obviously, the price is not updating here, because what we have here is that we don't change the price state at any point of time anymore. We'll take care about this soon. The rest is working though. Well, the Order Now button also isn't becoming active. Let's have a look at that Order Now button then. The reason why it's not becoming active is that in the end it's controlled through this purchasable property here. We had a look at this earlier in this module. So the Order Now button, the price, these are two things we'll have to work on. The ingredients on their own though are already working great in the Burger Builder. Let's continue this road, and let's now also make sure that the Order Now button works and that we update the price.